All right. Thanks so much for coming along, everyone. Obviously, we're really stoked to be here tonight supporting all things blockchain, continuing to support all things blockchain. It feels really good to support our local community groups, put people in a room and talk about blockchain and talk about crypto. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And hopefully, our expert panel tonight can share some really awesome insights with you about what they see for the upcoming year. So before I give them the chance to introduce themselves, I will, at Amanda's bequest, of course, say that nothing here tonight is financial advice. Please do your own research. Please, there we go. I've made the lawyer happy, so now we can keep moving. We'll go down the line. Can we please get an introduction, guys?
Starting with me. Okay, I have the mic. My name's Harry Dell. I am a tax lawyer. I specialize in crypto assets as well as a whole bunch of other things, but nobody cares about that tonight. We do retail investors, we do funds, we do projects, we do stuff all over the world. And we do lots of stuff with Binance, we do lots of stuff with David. So all in all, I expect that everyone's got a friend and you want to ask me, is this all right? Is this how that works? Feel free to do that, but yeah, just be careful what you wish for.
I did that the other day, didn't I? I literally said, hey, I've got a friend.
You did. It wasn't a good answer, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Hi, everyone. My name's Dave, and I'm the founder of the Australian Crypto Convention and Crypto Den. Australian Crypto Convention is I think it's officially now the largest crypto event in the Southern Hemisphere, which is great. And Crypto Den's an online education platform. And I work with the team from Blockchain Australia. So, like Harry, I get asked a lot of questions as well, and I won't give financial advice, but you feel free to ask anything.
Hi, everyone. So I'm a lawyer at Binance. I primarily look after the Australian region. And before I started at Binance, I was in private practice, and I was also looking at crypto as my niche. So I've been in this space for a while, and I think I know a number of you from, I guess, my time in private practice. So crypto has always been kind of my baby, and I'm looking forward to talking about, our very interesting topic and exploring what 2024 brings for us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, let's kick it off. What's in store for crypto in Australia this year? Let's dive into the local industry narrative. What's coming down the pipeline for us?
Well, I might kick it off because I've got the mic, I guess. I think it's an interesting one because obviously the hot topic on everyone's lips at the moment is the ETFs. It's, I think, particularly interesting because when the ETFs launched, it was kind of bearish. But I think now we're starting to see it climb upwards off the back of that. And I think what we'll see is increasing mass adoption off the back of that. So this sounds really weird, but I was at the dog park the other day. And the reason I say we'll see increasing mass adoption is when I was at the dog park, we had a friend come over and he was saying, I had my son actually purchase the Bitcoin ETF instead of a normal ETF. And I think that is really interesting because parents are actually introducing their kids now to crypto. That's just so interesting. It's the educational factor behind the Bitcoin ETF as well. And, bigger tech companies are coming into it. BlackRock, we're seeing Google now actually allowing advertisements of crypto. So I think it's a huge push towards mass adoption.
And I think the brand credibility that Bitcoin gets out of those as well is enormous, right? I think we can now all safely say that's an institutional grade asset, which is huge for our space.
I agree. You know how much I love talking about Bitcoin ETFs. But yeah, I think the adoption of Bitcoin and as a whole now is just going to exponentially grow. And like you said, when the ETF first launched, some people thought it was a bit bearish. I thought it was pretty good. I think it held its price pretty good. Bitcoin's still trading over 40K USD, despite the sell-off and everything else. So from a technical standpoint, I think it's held its own pretty good. You've got Grayscale that had to balance its books out, so it bought a certain amount of Bitcoin, and then obviously it had to sell a certain amount to make sure it balanced. So I think that sell-off is done or almost done now. So I'm pretty bullish on the market overall.
Dave, the Bull Haslop.
I'm very much not at the Bitcoin end of the market. I'm very much at the new projects, innovation, and the tax regulation end, which I'll talk about separately. More excitingly, we're seeing venture capital funds deploying capital into crypto, into tokens again. There were VCs I thought ceased to exist, and they just like reappeared with money. And I was like, oh wow, that's a good sign. And obviously those people move first before retail picks up those sorts of assets later. But it is filtering down, and it has been for about 6 months. So this isn't happening, in the last few weeks. This has been happening for a while. The investors are back on deck. There's even a few Australian very large projects that have been building for 3 or 4 years, and they're finally hitting go, and they're finding it not too hard to get investment. If you try and do it 12 months ago, you'd come up with probably nothing. On the tax regulation side, we've got ETFs, and that's great on that product side. We're seeing movement on financial services laws across the world. We're not seeing much movement on the tax side of the world. And that's not going to be a problem this year, really, in terms of institutions. It'll all be everyone here's problem. Always will be, sorry. But we've got Bitcoin ETFs, we've got structures in place. They're going to have tax problems. There will be litigation following that. Like, there is still tax drama to follow in all of those. If you think investing in that will keep you safe from it, it won't. It will probably limit the exposure, but we're still very delayed in regulation, just keeping pace with innovation. It never will keep pace, but it's lagging very far behind. The tax isn't moving at all. It's getting further behind, because we're seeing even weirder stuff like restaking and all sorts of things, which I haven't even had the chance to think about yet. So that's going to scare me when it does.
And yeah, tax consequences for that are really starting to go down the rabbit hole. Let's zoom out in terms of crypto in 2024. What narratives are you guys following? What use cases do you think will emerge this year?
Gaming. I was just talking to my new friend, he's in here somewhere, Philip. Gaming is still, it was my same outlook from last year as well, but I think this year it's going to be even bigger. Gaming, and in particular asset tokenization in the gaming worlds. So you look at the overall size of the gaming industry, and it's doubled that of both the movie and the music industry combined year on year. And I think if you add that second layer of asset tokenization into gaming, you're going to add hundreds of billions of dollars in assets to that industry. So yeah, asset tokenization in gaming in particular is the thing that I think I'm most bullish on, outside of Bitcoin itself.
And we've got a couple of really strong local players in that industry as well. So that's super exciting for Australia specifically.
I want to talk about DPIN. I think that is super cool. So I don't know if you guys know about DPIN, but essentially it's like, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but it stands for like decentralized physical infrastructure network, I think it is. But what it allows you to do is use like crowdsourcing for like creating like building of physical infrastructure networks. So a good example of this is like something called Hive Mapper. And you can essentially receive tokens to use as payment, like, as everyday payments to use these physical infrastructure networks that have been built as part of the DPIN networks. And the Hive Mapper resource that this is an alternative to Google Maps. I think it's really cool because it's been built off of dash cams, and it's a good alternative if you want to use like decentralized technology. It's a source of innovation. So I think regulation is going to have to catch up to these alternatives. And I'm really interested to see where this goes moving forward.
I heard an amazing story the other day about an Uber driver that someone I knew spoke to, who was using one of those Hive Mapper dash cams while he's Uber driving, because he's helping to map the city like Google Earth or Google Maps. And he was apparently getting paid half as much as his Uber revenue through Honey. Pretty sure Honey's the
Really?
token.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you can, well, I don't know. Well, hashtag not financial advice. So don't go around like using this as like, you know, an alternative to your job. But I think it's really cool because the only continent I read that doesn't have like this Honey alternative or like the Hive Mapper alternative is Antarctica. So they've expanded so quickly in like such a short span of time.
And think about the challenge it would be to actually compete with Google Earth as a company. Like it's not feasible, not in any way. The only way that somebody could create a product that could rival that is by incentivizing an enormous workforce. There's a fundamental shift in the way we do business and the way we build products. That's pretty cool.
What was the question again? I've forgotten.
Narratives, trends, and use cases.
Okay. This one's not really a use case, but it's certainly going to be a narrative, I think, in the next 9 months. I think meme coins are back. I bought a bunch and they've actually done really well. The retail interests is growing in that. And like, don't discount it. Like, yeah, it's full of absolute crap, but it's a cultural thing, just as much as people just holding Bitcoin, not really using Bitcoin for its use case, but instead hoarding it for a purpose. It actually became a cultural thing, as you know, we call it digital gold, etc. This is following that same narrative. So don't think it's so different. It's not. Ask me about my meme coin recommendations later. Don't. Ask me and I won't tell you. And the other one was, you know, we've been saying tokenized assets for a long time, but a lot of assets will not be tokenized in the next 12 months. And one particular will be land. We've tried many times. It's very, very hard in this country. In other countries, it does start to happen. But people can just buy land. So it's like not, unless you want to decentralize like a retail fund that's going to hold a crap load of land, then that makes sense. But is there a lot of value in doing that? We already have products that do that. What's the difference? What we will see tokenized use cases for is a lot of funds, a lot of commodities. Some commodities you cannot get spot exposure to very easily. And the most recent example that I've seen and worked on is uranium. Getting exposure to uranium spot price is very difficult. It is possible, but there are now decentralized tokens which link to the spot price, and they hold uranium in reserve, you know, under contract, not actual uranium. There's a whole bunch of innovations in that financial services side, and like DeFi, you know, finance is in there. That's what they're going to do. Is financial products are going to be more tokenized as opposed to real world stuff, because that's really hard.
I want to talk about meme coins. I'd like
one
word. I'd like a one-word answer from each of you, and then we'll jump back in and explore. Are they positive or negative for our industry? That's a tough.
Is it? Very positive. That's 2 words. I'm so sorry.
I can't answer that with one word.
Are you going to be a lawyer?
I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm super risk averse, aren't I? But it's such a like, it's so ironic because I'm in such a like, what industry am I in? So yeah, I know. I see the value. Oh gosh.
Yeah, we can.
I know.
We can dive into it now. Go for it, Amanda.
Okay, thank you. So, actually, can I go back to the one word? No, no, I don't like them. I don't like meme coins.
Righto. Let's dive into each answer. Why?
I don't like meme coins because I feel like it actually detracts from, I guess, the bigger players in the market taking the crypto industry seriously. And whilst I understand that that's not a necessity for the obviously, so what? They don't take us seriously. Doesn't matter. Screw them. Like, so what, right? But at the same time, we do, to a point, need that level, right, of sophistication. We do need that level of buy-in. And if they don't take us seriously, then it gets difficult for regulators to take us seriously, especially when you've got shit coins. Like, and then the judge has to say something like, oh, yes, I make a ruling on shit coin. Then it's a really awkward situation for the judge and for, the lawyer representing, yeah, like, it's just a little bit of an awkward situation. So I see both sides, but I lean more towards the no, I am not a fan of meme coins, but that is me.
That's a good answer. I'm on the fence. I can see a use case for both. So no, I'm in the no camp in the sense of, yes, we need to be taken more serious by regulators. I've personally spoken to hundreds, if not thousands of people over the last 6-7 years that have lost fortunes on meme coins. And that upsets me. And that gives the entire industry a really poor name. But at the same time, the meme coin culture, even if they're not too bright, they're bringing in a shitload of retail money. They're bringing in new people into the markets.
Is it the type of money, like, are they the type of
people? Whether it's just the money or the awareness as well, like they're still raising the profile of the industry. We've seen it in, what was it? Was it 21, the GameStop thing? Everyone had that thing with the GameStop, and then all of a sudden everyone's a stock investor. But what it did do is it brought so much capital into the retail capital into the industry and awareness. So it does that for crypto, but I think the negative outweighs any positive.
Sell us on the case for meme coins, Harry.
Okay. I'll try my best. So I mentioned already, like it is based in, internet culture, which we've had pretty strong for probably over 20 years now. But the point of meme coins, like my favorite meme coin, I think it's dead now anyway, so you can't buy it. But it was literally called Scam Coin. And do you know why they called it Scam Coin? So no institutional fund manager could ever buy Scam Coin. And it was actually a pretty good coin. It actually did some stuff. But it's dead now. But whatever. The thing is that this asset class wasn't created to be fit for regulation. And this is part of the problem that we're having. This is a democratized asset class. I could make a token on my phone right now. I could make, Khoo token and we'll all buy it. But it doesn't mean that's a good idea. It doesn't mean I'm giving financial advice. It doesn't mean any of those things. And all of those great products are still there. It doesn't detract from those, I don't think, from a reputational perspective. What detracts from those is people, raising money on a token and they don't know it's a shit coin. They don't know it's a meme coin. That's when there's a serious problem. But if everyone knows it's a big joke and someone makes lots of money and people lose money, and people shouldn't do that, that's really sad. But people shouldn't buy Dogecoin at 60 cents. But someone had to, because if someone sold it, someone bought it. And that's how it works. So there's always two sides to it. What I think is positive is that it actually keeps the very serious people away from the innovation. And that's probably where they should be. There are people innovating on stuff that currently is not legal, but they're doing it anyway because they like building new stuff. They like to move fast and break things. And if they followed the rules, if they went and got prospectuses and investment memorandums and sent them all around, like, it doesn't work. So people moving fast and breaking things is actually moving the industry forward. As much as it causes us pain, it also got us here in the first place. So we've got to remember that. Bitcoin was the first shitcoin.
I'd like to jump into each of your individual specializations before we open up for some questions, but I'd love to get some predictions on what you guys think is in store for 2024 for your verticals. Harry, I'll kick off with you because you've got the mic. Crypto tax, what's happening? What do we need to watch out for this year?
I won't talk about my shitcoin fund then. I'll just talk about tax. Unfortunately, not much. Because if you look at the ATO webpage, which says crypto consultation, the pages were published in November. And if you followed me, you'd know I'm pretty upset about it. But more upsetting is they've marked it as closed. There is no further consultation being engaged with by the ATO. There is still the Board of Tax. Board of Tax is just, some people who think about some stuff and they tell government, and then, half the time nothing happens, half the time stuff does. So we don't know where that's going to go. Government currently is not interested in crypto tax reform. What we will see this year is a lot of very specific engagement with the ATO. So that's what I've been doing a lot of in the last 12 months. And we're going to see class rulings, product rulings come out in the next 12 months, which are going to guide what we think about this space. And they're not going to be binding. It's not going to be like, great, we've got, the holy Bible of crypto tax now, but we're going to know a lot more. And that's going to make a lot of people feel a lot better about it. So while we're not going to have the great big reform of, financial services got in the last few years, we are getting some fixes, and I think they're going to be good quality of life ones. But when they're going to come, I don't know. But when they do, I'll tell you all about it.
Dave, you've been around this space for a long time. How does this cycle feel the same, and how is it different to previous ones?
The institutional growth is the biggest difference. So the approvals of the ETFs is huge, and people, I think, while some people are super excited about it, others downplay it. And I don't think people really understand how small the market is at the moment. The entire crypto market cap is just over $1 trillion. And when you start talking about these asset fund managers in America that are bringing their capital into the market, you're potentially talking, between 10 and $20 trillion in a very short amount of time. So that's 10xing or 20xing the current market cap, which is enormous. Now, that's not going to happen overnight. It's probably not even going to happen this year, but that coupled with the Bitcoin halving, then those two narratives alone are enough to drive a lot of speculation in the market. And, basic supply and demand and economics would dictate after the halving that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. And with that, the rest of the market will follow. That's not financial advice, but that's what I think.
And obviously from your end, Amanda, can you share more about progress with licensing and regulation of crypto, of exchanges in this country?
Yeah, of course. Not sure if anyone's actually really interested in this because it's quite boring, like legalese. But essentially, in Australia, we had last year a consultation paper released that was looking into a new licensing regime for crypto exchanges. So what this means is they want to introduce something similar to actually it is like the current Australian Financial Services license. I think what will happen is it will come out this year, like the official regime will come out this year. And there will be a grace period whereby all the exchanges will, scramble to apply for the license. And then we'll see what happens. ASIC will, screen, and then we will have a group of licensed exchanges, and hopefully that will help the market, that will improve the consumer sentiment and improve consumer trust. And I think the other thing we will see as well is a lot more court precedents, particularly off the back of what's happening in the US, as well as what's happening in Australia. So I don't know if you guys have been following. ASIC has some cases as well with Block Earner, as well as some other exchanges as well. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening there.
The framework too is really exciting from a product perspective, and potentially opens up exchanges bringing back products that have previously had to be removed from the Australian market. So yeah, that's a really exciting development to keep our eye on. Maybe. I'll finish with one more question, and maybe this will sober us, maybe it won't. There seems to be a lot of consensus that we're gearing up for a bull run. Bitcoin's had a solid run so far last year. We've got a number of bullish catalysts that, we're talking about. Is there any way that we're too bullish? Are we too excited for what's to come?
I'm holding the mic, but I feel like I want to hand this over to Dave. No, I'll take it. I'll take it first, and then maybe everyone else can hype up as we go. I don't think it's ever a bad thing to be excited. I think it's a positive thing, especially off the back of last year. I feel like we need the excitement. It's a good thing. So no, I'd like to think everything we've had so far is a positive indication. That being said, obviously we should always, oh, here we go. Here's the lawyer in me coming out. Sorry, guys. We should always, keep an eye out for what's happening and never put all your eggs in one basket. Okay, I'm moving on. Here we go.
Before you write me another disclaimer.
Write myself another disclaimer.
I think that it's healthy to be cautious. And historically speaking, Bitcoin is driving the market's price action. So, and normally sort of, like I said, historically, when you're going into a halving for Bitcoin, then the price does tend to collapse a little bit. That's not to say it will happen again, but historically it has. And I think it's a case of buy the rumor, sell the news, the narrative that we see a lot. And that happens in TradFi as well as crypto. And we've seen a little bit of it with the ETF launch, and there's a big sell-off and everything. But I think that the sell-off happens for a reason. And in this case, the reason was Grayscale had to balance the books. But what happens is FUD kicks in, and then people get scared and they start selling off, and that cascades the market in that particular direction. And you can get the same thing happen with the halving as well. People get so bullish leading into a halving, and they think, supply and demand, this thing's going to go through the roof and whatever. But there's always that sell-off before it happens. So I think that there's a chance that we could see something like that, a bit of a sell-off, and then post-halving we start to see exponential growth. And I'd love to see Bitcoin in six figures by the end of the year, especially November. But
On the day of AusCryptoCon.
that'll be good. But ultimately, I don't think there's really much case for a bearish scenario over the next 2 years, realistically. I mean, there's so much money flowing into this market at the moment. There's so much infrastructure being built in this market at the moment, and I just can't see it going backwards, too far at all. And if it does, it'll be for a very short amount of time.
Again, I've forgotten the question. Can you read it to me again? Please don't put me last.
Are we too bullish, Harry?
Oh, are we too bullish? I don't think we're bullish enough, frankly. Like, I love Bitcoin. No, I understand everything. Like, Bitcoin's great. It's a great metric to see like market health and market optimism and perspective. But that's basically saying, well, what do we think this asset's going to do in the future? It's everyone pulling out their crystal balls and going, oh, what's happening here? And none of us actually have crystal balls. We're just making stuff up. So the price of Bitcoin is a great metric for what do we think about the market. Price of Bitcoin's going up, generally over the last, 18 months? Yeah, even longer than that even, which has been a great sort of rise in sentiment, which is why, the startup space is reviving as well. They're going, we see a future in the next 2 years where we can raise enough money and build enough stuff and do things. So the next cohort of cool stuff is happening, and that itself is showing the optimism, and it's again feeding the cycle until the cycle starts to stop and it goes the other way. And that's always how it's going to happen. So I'll even go with Amanda, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like that is good advice. But also the people who do put all their eggs in one basket, the founders of these companies are the ones that, do really crazy things, really awesome things, and generally make a lot of money doing it. But that's not everybody. If we're talking about utility, if we're talking about all sorts of things, that's all coming into the market, feeding that sentiment, but just don't be too emotional about the market, because the market is very emotional. It is. And that's why they say sell the news. Because if they said buy the news, good news means price goes up. It'd be so easy to trade the market, but it doesn't work like that. So yeah, it's always priced in, unfortunately.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your insight, guys. We're going to open up for audience questions. I believe we might have some online questions as well. But in the room, we've got 3 of these amazing Binance merch boxes that I've brought along. If anybody's ever got their hands on Binance merch before, it's really good stuff. And this is brand new, never given out this package, this box before. So each of our panelists will choose their favorite question from the audience and award that person with a beautiful Binance box. So ask your best questions. No, you can't buy it. So please give us your best questions.
Okay. Which, if any, cryptos might follow Bitcoin in terms of having their own ETF anytime soon?
Who wants to take that?
Who's got the crystal ball?
Here. Oh, no.
Sorry, did you say which crypto would be the next ETF? Is that was the question? Well, I think they're trying to push through the Ethereum ETFs now, so it's
After that.
going to be the natural second. So
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin. I think ETH will be a safe bet on the second ETF.
Yeah, I think it's basically coming through in the next few months. But after that, I think we're going to start seeing like true things of what ETFs are supposed to do, which is track sort of indexes. We're going to see, you know, like a layer one ETF where you can buy Ethereum, Solana, and Avalanche, some other stuff, because there is hunger for those kinds of products beyond Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the first off the rank. Ethereum second. After that, I think we'll get a bit more interesting stuff.
I was wondering, what do you guys think is going to lead the most amount of interest from like the non-Web3 people into Web3? Like, how do we get it? Is it Web 2.5? The industry, is it gaming? What do you guys think?
Up with the mic.
Meme coins.
Meme coins, the shittest of the shit coins. No, basically people will need to be using these systems without knowing it. That's because if we, you know, everyone in this room is relatively bullish on crypto, but everyone outside the room is unlikely to be. So unless they're going to use a system and they don't even notice that it's powered by blockchain or DLT or crypto or, you know, all of them together into a actual token product, then we're not going to see success. Not going to see mass success. When we do see that happen is when we're going to see cool things happen, like 24/7 NASDAQ market and the ASX doing stuff. And it's not as exciting as some of the stuff we're talking about here, but like when it works, it will be as exciting. So when people don't know what they're doing.
For me, I think it's going to be, like, gaming's obviously a big narrative, but second to that will be tokenizing commodities. So I think at the moment to get into the market, you know, you've got to be a sophisticated investor. You've got to hold a certain amount of capital. By tokenizing it, anyone can get into the market with any amount of capital. So I think from that end, there's a lot more trust in the market. And to Harry's point, that people won't even know they're using Web3 or blockchain. To them, it's from the front end user, it's just going to be, well, I can now buy $10 worth of gold. So I think that's going to be the next big narrative.
Yeah, I agree with Harry that, you know, it's when it's in every single part of like what you do. That's when, you know, like how many before, I don't know, before I really got into like Web3 and like crypto, I didn't even know what Web 2 was. Like when I was a child, I was like, what even is the internet? You know, that's the level we need to, yeah, like so many people don't even know what the internet is. Like what even is the web? You know, what does www even stand for? So that's the level we need to get to. That's when I would think that we've reached the level of mass adoption that we need to get to.
All right, I might have a question from the panel online, but I'll come back. But I just want a quick disclaimer to people online. We're not shipping you a box. Sorry, guys, you have to be here in person.
What's your thoughts on the US regulations and the SEC in the overseas infrastructure, what they're trying to do to the cryptocurrencies?
I think that one's for me. So I think the US regulation, that's an interesting one because a lot of people had thought that we would be seeing something this year. I think they've introduced a number of bills and even though they've introduced a number of bills, it is quite unlikely that we will see anything actually come into fruition this year. That being said, that is still a prediction. Anything could happen, right? who knows, that they might all just come together and miraculously just agree. What is most likely, though, is court precedents, I do think. So I think all the SEC court cases will form a basis for what comes next. So I think the SEC might find it difficult in terms of next steps. But that being said, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
All right, so we're going to take a question from online. I love how eager beaver everyone wants a box. You've really upped the ante there, Liam. Okay, so question. Sorry, let me just scroll back up here. I'm sorry, I'm not on a Mac, and I don't know how to operate this computer. How do I scroll up? Okay, stop. I'm just trying to look at the question. Sorry, we can't operate this computer because it's not a Mac. That's not an advertisement for Mac. Okay. No, let's go down to the next one.
Hurry up, Danielle.
Sorry, go down faster. Okay. Do you think that Australia not having certain regulations related to crypto and Web3 will lose startups to the UAE region?
I won't
Good
talk on this topic.
question.
Yeah, we should. Can we ship them a box? Oh yeah. Yes, it's already happened. We've already lost so much. When people have any sort of successful Web3 business where they're issuing tokens, do anything, the first thing I tell them is you cannot do this here, even from a tax perspective. Even if you got all the ASIC license things, whatever you can get, you're selling tokens, you're paying 30% tax on them here when you can pay 0 in the UAE, or in a relatively standard global structure that these companies use. This is not a good place to innovate. We make such great founders and intellectuals. We've had like 5 or 6 Aussie unicorns in crypto. And I tell you what, they're not structured in Australia. I don't think any of them are anymore. And you can find that out pretty easily. Because it's just silly to do it here. The tax laws especially are very unfavorable. A lot of the investment concessions don't apply to token issuances. They only apply to share issuances. A lot of the venture capital funds, like the LP funds with VC concessions, can't invest in those tokens. So lots of funds have like a sidecar. There's only about 3 or 4 large funds that have enough of a sidecar, 20, 30, 40, 50 mil to throw into some crypto stuff. And those funds have done really well, by the way. So yeah, they're off. They're out of here. They're in the UAE. They're in Singapore. They're in Hong Kong. They're in remote islands living up on the beach, but they're not here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think as Harry was saying, it is really difficult to operate without a clear regime. And if you're trying to kind of fit like a circle in a triangular, like, you know what I'm trying to say, like it doesn't match up, right? So it's really difficult. And when it's very unclear and no one's communicating with each other, but they're saying, oh yeah, you can try and you can seek certain exemptions, et cetera, it just makes it very, very hard. So I sympathize, and I think there have definitely been, especially when I was in private practice, I have definitely seen incidences where, as Harry was saying, people have moved overseas, and it's just so much easier to launch from there and just expand from there. Danielle, I've seen like several people out the front.
Okay, well, they're all just going to have to be very patient because I've got one more important question from online, and then we're going to go back to in here. But I also think that everybody is going to want to know this. And Amanda, I don't know, this is probably all on you. When will OSCO payments be allowed again to send fiat to Binance Australia accounts from Australian bank accounts? No box.
No box. Look, thank you for your question. This is something we are working on very, very hard. We appreciate your support. We really do value all the support and all our customers in Australia. trust us, we're working extremely, extremely hard on this. We've got different alternatives in the form of P2P, but at the moment, this isn't available yet, but trust us, we're working on it. So please bear with us, and you'll be the first to know the second it comes back. No comment.
So I feel too much pressure for me to pick because everyone's looking at me. We're going to take 3 last questions and each of you are going to pick from the audience. So anybody that wants a question, put your hand up and you guys, Dave, we'll start with you.
Firstly, I run crypto bots across a number of different exchanges, and Binance is the best by a long shot. Very stable, very reliable, and low fees. So fantastic. The part 2, love your YouTube channel and the weekly updates. So that's fantastic. So I get 2 boxes now. I guess the question is, and it's a little bit of the FUD that's been going around with the CZ and that sort of stuff. And I know the SEC and whatever been after him and Binance.com rather than Binance.au. What's the fallout of that for you guys and the fallout of that for us? So that's the first question. The second question is, okay, is UAE going to be the next big hotspot? I don't know.
Oh, okay. So I think the first question was the fallout off the back of the stuff happening. Look, I can't really comment on that, but from an Australia perspective, Binance Australia operates like separate to that stuff. So we have been, relatively unaffected. We continue to service our users, and you guys are number 1. So thank you so much for, all the lovely compliments. And yeah, so we continue to prioritize you guys. And in relation to the second question about whether the UAE is the next hotspot, I can't really say. I wish I could kind of like go over the crystal ball and say yes, no. But I think at the moment, a lot of companies are gravitating that way. I know it's pretty friendly from a regulatory perspective. That being said, it's also facing a lot of competition from regulators. I know Hong Kong is definitely opening up, as well as Singapore is trying as well. It's very hardest, despite its relatively risk-averse background. So we'll see what happens. That's me. You guys, did you want to say anything about the UAE?
You don't get a box because you cheated. Okay.
Oh, what, different question?
Yeah,
Yeah, different question. Yeah. Okay, the guy at the back with the sore arm.
Been holding it for like 20 minutes now.
Yeah, exactly. I want a box. Sort of a general and maybe a bit of a lawyer question. The introduction of the new licenses that affect general, exchanges is all. What major differences will that license be in relation to the current license of, normal Australian financial products and institutions? And what would that new license mean for Binance and other exchanges?
This is not a question for me.
Wow, I did not expect you guys to be so into the law. Okay. I really thought it was going to be like, no financial advice. Unless you guys are really trying to suck up to us about these boxes. The current registration regime for crypto exchanges is an AUSTRAC registration. So we register to AUSTRAC, and it's not necessary to have an Australian financial services license unless you're providing a financial product or a financial service. Under the new regime, if you are providing a crypto exchange service, then you must have an AFSL. So under this new regime, exchanges like Binance will need to have an AFSL. So I guess that's a major difference, because right now all exchanges just need to register with AUSTRAC. So it's, I guess, not as onerous. Whereas under the new AFSL regime, it's a lot more onerous. It means you need to have something called a responsible manager, multiple responsible managers. You have to have more different types of compliance programs. It's just a lot more. Like the bar is like a lot higher, I guess. So that's why I was saying that hopefully that means that you know, consumer trust will be a lot more increased. Oh,
We're in tax land now.
Can you repeat the question? Because
Uh,
people,
the-
not everybody heard the question.
The question was regarding whether the licensing regime will assist self-managed super funds to be compliant, especially their auditors. No. However, like if you're just on an exchange, you shouldn't have too many issues unless your auditor is a numpty, which is very common. Oh, it's the ATO, you mean? Oh, the ATO auditors. Oh, yeah. So you look, I used to work at the ATO and in income tax, and the superannuation area was like a dark place. You just didn't go there. They're really mean. They don't talk to the rest. So the rest of the office is kind of warming up to the idea. But no, SMSF stuff is going to have a lot of drama in that space. I've done a lot of podcasts on this with SMSF Advisor, where the biggest issue is simply finding, you know, your SMSF auditor you can trust and staying under the radar with the ATO, because you have to disclose now if you've got crypto assets, which is a little bit cheeky. What I've actually recommended to a lot of SMSF trustees is that they only use exchanges, but that means accepting the exchange risk. But the licensing regime should lower that risk.
So I have a feeling, just as a show of hands, who here thinks that we should do an AMA on this topic? Just out of curiosity. Or nobody? No? Okay, you guys are all asking questions and then nobody puts their hands up. All right, Amanda, you're gonna pick one person from the audience, but it cannot be a legal or a tax question. So who's got a question that's not related to legal or tax? I'm not picking, it's Amanda. So put your hands up really, really tall. She's gonna pick someone. Don't look at me, look at Amanda. Oh, Matt's such a cheerleader for the women. Pick a female.
How do you think ordinals will affect the NFT market, and whether it will take away a large share from Ethereum's use case?
That's a weird question. Oh, no, look, I'm not an expert on that either, but what as I understand it, the primary issue with ordinals is going to be transacting on them, because Bitcoin fees are quite expensive. When you're competing against cheaper chains, I think it's be hard to see a lot of really significant adoption there. That'd be my answer, but I'm not an expert. Yeah, I don't tell my wife. I spent about $300 on gas the other morning.
Bloody live stream.
She's in the room. Trying to restake on a certain protocol that's got a lot of hype at the moment. So you're absolutely right. Ethereum is not super usable in that way at the moment either. And that's why we got so much hype on Solana, right? It's cheaper. It's just as easy to use, right? So it might. So yeah, I think ultimately, right, what is easiest, best, fast, and cheapest is going to win. And I don't know if ordinals are going to do that. I think they'd need significant technical advancement before they were able to really kind of compete on that level.
All right, I think we're going to wrap it up there with questions, because otherwise we can drag it on all night. So I'd like to give a big round of applause and thank you to our panelists.